Good morning. My name is Eli Howes. Can you please tell me your full name?
My full name is Mert Onal.
And what should I call you?
You can call me Mert.
Okay, Mert, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about where you live. Has your hometown changed much in the last few years?
Oh, absolutely. There has been a lot of development going on. I don't live in my hometown anymore, but whenever I go there, maybe once a year, I see a lot of changes. There are more cafes, more cultural activities. So it's a really up and coming place.
Is your hometown a big or a small place?
It used to be small, but over the decade, it has gotten a lot bigger. It's no longer a small town.
Do you often visit your hometown?
Whenever I get the chance, I make use of the holidays to visit my relatives there, but I would say once a year, basically.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about libraries. Do you often go to the library?
Oh, yes, I feel very comfortable in the library environment. There aren't any distractions. Everybody is studying, so there's this kind of feeling of camaraderie. So, yes, I do frequently go to the library.
Mm. And what do you usually do in the library?
I usually work on anything. It can be about my business, or sometimes I just like reading philosophy and politics. And there are a lot of resources in the library, so it's the perfect venue.
Did you go to the library regularly when you were a child?
I wasn't a big fan of the library. I think as most students are, especially during maybe primary school, middle school, I usually avoided the place. But when I started university, I really appreciated all the resources and the perfect environment that the library offers.
And nowadays, do you think more children use the library or fewer children?
I mean, I don't have any statistics in mind, but my observation is they're going less compared to the past because of technology. They can access any kind of resource without actually going to the library. So I think the trend is downwards.
Mm. Let's move on. Let's talk about chocolate. Do you like eating chocolate?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's my favorite, let's say, dessert.
And did you often eat chocolate when you were a child?
Yes, I think my current physical condition is because of that. Absolutely. Not only on special occasions, but on a daily basis, it was my go-to dessert.
Right. Do you have a particular favorite flavor?
Yes, I love dark chocolate. Nowadays, of course, I read the health benefits of it as well, but just the taste of dark chocolate is perfect.
Mhm. Do you think that chocolate is a good gift to give other people?
Yes, absolutely. Most people love chocolate. I haven't met anyone who doesn't like it. So instead of a book which contains risks, I usually just go for chocolate as a gift.
Hmm. Now, why do you think chocolate is so popular around the world?
Well, basically the taste,
Mhm.
right? It's delicious. It gives you a kind of boost, right? It improves your mood, and it's easy to access. So I think these are the reasons why it's very popular.
We're going to move on to part two, and in this part, I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say, and you can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, here's your topic. You have 1 minute to prepare. All right, remember you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
I would like to talk about the time I was given a PlayStation all the way back in middle school. So I was a PC person back then. I played a lot of PC games, but at some point, my friends started acquiring PlayStations. And of course, I visited them in their house, and the gaming style was very different. So at some point, I started to desire this electronic equipment as well. But I was going through a difficult financial period, so I wasn't really sure how I could afford it. I had a part-time job back then, but it was nowhere near enough to cover the cost of a PlayStation. But luckily, on my birthday, my best friend decided to give me a PlayStation, and I was pleasantly surprised by this because I was not thinking of acquiring one maybe in a couple of years. So I immediately opened the box and I thanked my friend, and he said, "Well, what are you waiting for? Let's immediately begin." So we played a couple of games, and after that, my school grades suffered because I was completely addicted to this amazing device. And I bought a lot of games, and we organized tournaments amongst each other. So it really made a significant difference in my life. And after that, of course, new PlayStations came out on a regular basis, and now I had to acquire those as well. And to this day, I'm an avid user of PlayStation and I play a lot of games. It's a great way to clear my mind after a long day's work. I strongly recommend it to anyone who is interested in gaming.
Thank you. And have you ever been able to return such a gift to your best friend?
I've paid back the favor in different ways. I can definitely say that. I mean, we're still friends. We still try to help each other out as much as possible. But I think he gave me the best gift so far.
Okay. So we've been talking about something you wanted that you eventually got, and I'd like to discuss with you one or two more general questions related to this. Let's consider first of all our needs. What do you think are some general human needs that we have? I guess one would be, for example, food. What other ones are there?
Yes, I think in terms of essential needs, we have shelter, food, and in terms of non-essential needs, I think entertainment, leisure. So we can break it into those categories.
Yes. Do you think that non-essential needs in some ways can be essential because of how deeply they affect our happiness?
Oh, absolutely. Mental health professionals always highlight the fact that, for instance, socializing and, catching a movie can really benefit your mental health. And if you're going through a rough patch, it can have a really therapeutic effect. So, although maybe on the pyramid of needs, it seems like it's not that essential, I think it actually is in terms of our daily experience.
Mhm. So, what are some needs that you would put in that category, apart from things like entertainment, things that are important for our psychological well-being, but not really for our survival?
So I think socializing is one of them. Having a conversation with friends, grabbing a coffee, just sharing what's going on in your life. It can really lift the burden from your shoulders if you can have a meaningful conversation, get some good advice. So although it doesn't seem critical for our survival, I think in most cases it is essential to our well-being.
Mm. Do you think that nowadays, with the fact that we can kind of get a coffee by ordering it on an app or walking 2 minutes down the road and getting food that, 100 years ago we wouldn't even be able to get because it's from the other side of the world? Do you think that's had a positive or a negative impact on our desirability and desire for different needs?
I think it has had a positive impact because, as you said, it was a real hurdle, let's say back in the Middle Ages, to just grab whatever we needed. So I think overall it has a positive impact because it saves us a lot of time. We can use that time to do something more meaningful instead of, traveling to town on horseback.
Mhm.
So I think at the end of the day, it has been a positive development.
Well, let's talk about meaningful uses of time. What do you consider to be some meaningful uses of time?
Well, I'm a big fan of personal growth. So
Mhm.
whatever I do, I try to make sure, even if it's for entertainment purposes, it adds something to me. It expands my horizon in one way or another. Even when I'm with my friends, I try to get advice. I try to learn what's going on in their lives so I can draw some lessons from them and apply it to my own life. So yeah, in terms of personal growth, I think time should be used in that manner.
Mhm. Why do you think there are some people that dedicate a lot of time and energy and effort to charitable causes? for example, helping homeless people?
I think basically it's a very satisfying endeavor, right? Helping people out. When you see the happiness in their eyes, I think that's a very rewarding experience. I think it's an essential part of being human, right? We're naturally social creatures, so we want to help each other out. And seeing the wonderful outcomes of a charitable contribution, I think it's a wonderful feeling.
Hmm. Do you think that schools should encourage children to engage in charity and to think beyond their own immediate needs and desires to looking outward at how they can help and contribute to others?
Yes, absolutely. I completely support that idea because if they start this at a young age and when they feel that satisfaction of going beyond their own little lives and touching other people's lives, that's going to reflect on their adulthood, right? When they grow up, they will continue that as a habit, and we will have better citizenry as a result. So I completely agree with that idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Mert. That was a wonderful speaking test.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Amazing test. Can you feel that, how good that test was?
Well, I got some great energy from you, and the
Right.
questions were very positive as well. Maybe that's why.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, you engaged very well in all of those questions. Brilliant. You know, we were talking about getting band 9 in speaking tests and how difficult it can be before we started this one. I would give you a band 9 for this test. I think I know a couple of examiners that maybe would err on the side of caution and give you 8.5, and that's for two reasons, and we'll discuss that in, you know, together. But I would be giving you band 9 for this test. It's clear that you've got an amazing command of English. Not only do you use very accurate phrases, but you also use English in a very kind of fun, and playful way. For example, when you said things like going through a difficult financial period, like that's just such a nice way to paraphrase like not having enough money. And there's just like a lot of that throughout your test. And, that really shows such a high level of sophistication and understanding of the language. So, as soon as you started using that kind of language, you completely won me over in terms of what score I was going to be giving you. Your grammar is accurate. Your pronunciation is incredibly clear. You speak at a very good pace, and it's very easy to understand every word that you say. You use intonation and you use rhythm and you use pitch very well to communicate all of your ideas. Brilliant. So that gets me on to, what would the examiners that would give you 8.5 be thinking? One thing is, in part one, our part one lasted approximately 3.5 minutes. Now, normally it should last between 4 and 5 minutes. Now, I know that that is basically on the examiner. So I asked you all the questions that I needed to in part one. And because you're at a very high level, you were able to answer all of those confidently. Um, and it fell just short of the period of time. Some inexperienced examiners might feel that you didn't talk enough. Actually, you did. But some examiners might say, okay, part one only lasted for 3.5 minutes. It should have been 4 to 5 minutes. An experienced examiner will know that that's because you've got a high level and actually you had just, enough, you had enough words and enough meaning that you were trying to communicate for all of those answers. They were all, in my mind, perfect. But some examiners might worry that your answers were too short, but they weren't. But that might be something to bear in mind. And then the second thing is very small mistakes in pronunciation, but so small. So, for example, thanked, that th sound you pronounce slightly more as a t, like tanked, just for once in the entire test. But again, for that band 9, an examiner is listening to every single detail. And then for pyramid, you described it more pyramid. So instead of pi, you went pi. So a slight, just one phoneme difference between pi and pi. Um, Now, I would still give you band 9 because I know that these are mistakes that native English speakers can make. But I do also know that there's some examiners that are real sticklers that may say, well, pyramid, pyramid. and try and hold on to that as evidence that you might not be a band nine. But in my mind, you're a clear band nine, and I think you should be incredibly proud. And I can't wait to also put this video on YouTube so that people can learn from all of the great language that you used.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have any tips that you would like to share for IELTS speaking?
Well, there is a quote, I don't know where it came from, consistency over intensity,
Mhm.
right? A lot of IELTS students, they say, I'm going to study very hard for a month. I'm just going to close myself in a room. It never works out unless you have a very high level of English already. Spreading your study over a period of time consistently, pretty much every day, even if it's like a couple of minutes of voice recordings, right? It can make a lot of difference, not only in terms of analyzing those voice recordings, but building confidence, right? Seeing yourself on the screen talking English, it convinces your brain that, hey, I can do this, right? This is not a big deal. So yeah, that's my mantra, consistency over intensity.
I love that. And I also love your suggestion. So one was recording yourself, another one was speaking in the mirror. Is that right?
So in terms of voice recordings, I do videos, right? Not just MP3 format, but just holding your phone and recording yourself in that way, because then you can see your facial expressions, right? It's more organic compared to just a voice recording with a transcript.
I love that idea. And do you read what you're going to say, or do you just answer a question?
Yeah, of course, off the cuff, I just answer a question, and then of course I come back. Then I use AI to, generate some model answers to see how I could have done better, right? I think that's a good way to improve nowadays.
Very clever. And then would you maybe even answer the same question again on the video
Yes.
recording? Very
Yes,
smart.
I
There's
don't do
always that
it on
progression.
that day, but I use like a spaced repetition system. So I would do it maybe 4 or 5 days later. So I try to shock my brain every now and then, because if you do it on the same day, it's not a lot of fun and your brain is already in the zone, right? So that's why I answered the same question maybe a week or 4 or 5 days later.
Brilliant. I love that idea. Okay, well, huge thank you for coming on and doing this speaking test with me. I'm going to get straight to editing this so that I can get it onto YouTube and to Facebook as soon as possible.
It
Huge
was a
thank you.
pleasure. Very nice meeting you.
Wonderful. Okay, well, stay in touch. And, when you go for that next IELTS test, do let me know how you get on.
Absolutely. I'm taking it on the 3rd of September, so I will definitely shoot you a mail after I get the results.
Please do. Okay, then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.